don't understand why you're 40 years old and playing the game still. So.
Well, I mean, what game do you think you're going to be playing when you're 40? When do you think you're going to stop playing games? What's the age? What's the cutoff age?
When you're out of high school and college.
You're a high school kid?
Yeah, I'm in high school. Yeah.
How old are you?
Why does it matter?
Well, I mean, you foresee yourself in the future quitting something you love, like video games? Do you not love video games? You just cruising through it?
I mean, I think it's a little bit of a waste of time when you're that old. So.
Well, how do you know? You're not old yet. I mean, I can think of probably reasons that video games would be a waste of time for a high school kid, too. Do you have a 4.0? Are you in honor classes to get more than a 4.0?
No, but...
You know what I'm saying? There's more things you could be doing to improve your life than playing video games, too, right?
Yeah, you study and not play games.
Hey, just recreation, man. Having fun. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
All right, then.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Week in Culture. My name is Brian. I'm here with John, the problematic white guy. I hope you guys are doing well this week. And we're going to be, as usual, because this is at the end of the week, I'm usually playing catch up to all of the stories everyone's talking about. But I try, and I think that we both try to go dig a little bit deeper than the surface level to look at what is actually going on in the weekend culture. So, first of all, John, how are you doing?
Oh, awesome as always. I would say that, this week has been an interesting one because evidently, since Wednesday, my week has gotten predominated by my second encounter in a mere 6 weeks with the Mercunti creature, where I again had to point out to her how, she's a failure because of the things that she puts herself through, because she showed up on Toasty's stream again. So we did a huge breakdown of that last night over on Toasty's channel. So if you want to hear me really go off and say some things, people were like, Jesus, John, tell us how you really feel. So I think I might have gone into detail there that I don't think that I'll do quite so much on this show today. But no, things are good. Got some new music from Osaka this morning. I listened to one song right before I popped into the stream. Really good stuff. People should check out her channel too. And she promised not to spill Legos if I was a good boy. So hopefully I won't have to walk on Legos before the end of the day. But yeah, things are good. I am ready to discuss the weekend culture, and yeah, hopefully we are going to have a great show today. There's some interesting stuff that's been going on.
Yeah, for sure. And we're gonna be talking about, well, actually at first I didn't know what there was to talk about, and then I did a little bit of digging and I found more that I could possibly dream of, and it's all very interesting to me, at least. So but let's go ahead and just jump right into it. If you guys could please smash that like button and share the video. If you don't mind, I'd like to reach more people if possible. Liking is the easiest way to do that, so please hit that like button. Okay, so let's get into the stories first. We're going to be talking about Dragon Age: The Veilguard, and this is sort of like the final hurrah of this game. So in March, it became available for free on PlayStation Plus, along with Sonic Colors and the Ninja Turtles Cowabunga collection, which is like a collection of retro Ninja Turtles games from the NES and Super NES days. And the Sonic Colors, I'm not really caught up on the latest, but I understand that Sonic Colors is actually a pretty decent game. So if you still have a PlayStation, even if you're just an Essential, which is the lowest tier, you can get all of these for free. And despite that, Dragon Age: The Veilguard has very, let's say, bad
disappointing
numbers.
Results. Yes,
it's not doing that well, even though they're trying to give it away.
Yes. This game, oddly enough, all right, so it came out on October 31st. And so there was 30 days in November, 31 days in December, 31 days in January, 28 in February. So that is a total of 124 days from the day that it released that it became free through Sony's subscription program. And so that means that they had to have a good 6 to 8 week lead time. So they knew before 100 days out that this thing was so terrible that the only way that they could shore up their revenue funding model scheme was to go and offer it for free and take a payday from Sony so they could claim better engagement numbers. And that hasn't even worked for them. I did not even download this thing. I got Cowabunga Collection, played through the first Ninja Turtles for the first time in my life, and since 1989 when I first played this game, actually beat the game with all 4 turtles alive. Took me 6 hours. I will not have to ever do this again. But I have done it. So bucket list. There's a I got the platinum, or not the platinum, but I got the award on the game. Very rare. And so, but it's there and it shows that I did it. And I honestly probably wouldn't have been able to do it without the quality of life improvements. They put a rewind function in, like Prince of Persia. So all those old annoying ass jumps that would always kind of like sweep your turtles away into the water and crazy shit like that. But yeah, so I beat a whole bunch of the Cowabunga Collection games, and then my PlayStation subscription expired, and I'm not going to renew it. I still haven't gotten my bonus 5 days I was supposed to get from the outage. I doubt they will ever give that to me because Sony sucks, and I'm not going to ever get another PlayStation console, or really any console ever again, other than the next version of a Switch. But I consider those more hybrid PCs. But yeah, this Dragon Age thing, it is just laughable how bad it's done.
It's chef's kiss. It's beautiful.
It is. Yeah.
It is. And you know what? I don't know if they're going to learn anything from this, but I hope so. So typically, big releases like this do not hit subscription services this quickly unless sales are struggling. And that's exactly the case here. EA's late January 2025 press release admitted the game engaged only about 1.5 million players, about 50% below their expectations, with CEO Andrew Wilson noting it, quote, did not resonate with a broad enough audience, end quote. But it did get that modern audience that we keep looking for, I suppose. The game's price dropped to $24.99 within 4 months, and GameStop slashed its trade-in value to $22, with reports of mass returns signaling a commercial flop. Adding to that, PS Plus seems like EA's attempt to boost player numbers and maybe recoup some revenue through Sony, but the results have been underwhelming. True Trophies, which tracks 3.4 million active PlayStation Network accounts, reported that the Veilguard didn't even crack the top 10 most played games in March, landing at 15th place, while Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Cowabunga Collection, drew 8.2% more players. So it fell behind that. It trailed behind even older titles like God of War Ragnarok, though some players note they've claimed it but haven't played it yet.
Yeah,
so
I didn't even claim it. I wouldn't. Yeah. I wouldn't even give them that. I wouldn't even give them that because I was like, what are they going to consider an engagement? Are they going to consider it like, I mean, the same thing happened when they put out Saints Row, the fucking requel or whatever the hell, the completely destroyed violation.
The reboot.
Yeah,
the modern Saints Row. Yeah, which is what GTA 6 is going to turn into.
Yeah, it's quite sad, really. Yeah, and people need to brace for that impact. And like, I mean, I know GTA 6 will still sell well enough that they won't learn anything from the situation. But yeah, people out there who actually want good quality games, GTA 6 is going to break your heart. So I would just prepare for that. It's going to be more of this shit because GTA, all the game companies that have like people at the top that are in some very hot water, they got hit the hardest with the DEI tax. And yeah, so like that's your Ubisoft, that's your EA's, that's your Take-Two Interactive, Rockstar, all of them going to have the hardest time actually getting anything quality of them for quite a good many years, because now they're all led by their marketing and PR departments and everything like that. And like developers in the middle are just being squoze. So
Yep. And also, guys, last week somebody sent a super chow through Honey Badger Brigade. I don't get the super chows on this channel, so just send me a super chat if anything. That way, I'll be sure to see it. Just reminding you, if you follow us on my main job channel, which is Badger Live Streams or Honey Badger Brigade, don't send super chows there. Just send the super chats, because this is just my own little tiny space on the net where I get to speak my mind frankly, and I can talk about whatever I want. So that's what this is here. So really appreciate it. Anyways, all right. So Norwegian Black Templar says the Elder Scrolls 6 will also bomb on Rumble. Yeah, that's probably. I mean, we'll see as we learn more about that as that date approaches. We will definitely cover it, because you know, we'll see if people are gonna like look at the landscape and say, maybe we've been doing this all wrong, or if they're just gonna like you know, take the Titanic and go right into the iceberg and pretend like it's not actually there. So all right. So let's move. Yeah, let's move on to the next story. We're gonna talk about Manjaw because it's so it's an epidemic. It's an epidemic. Yeah, it's something, you know, could you please donate, save a jaw, make it look like a woman. All right, so let's see. So we got this leaked Unreal Engine developer video. Okay, which exposes the root cause of Manjaw women in video game design. And it's at there is basically a leaked video from an anonymous game developer who claims that Unreal Engine's metahuman character creator is responsible for the increasing prevalence of masculine-looking female characters dubbed man-jawed woman in modern games. The developer argues that the tool's default female models, so like when you first load up this program, and you load up a female character, the default settings are like with larger than normal jaws. Okay.
It's baked into the middleware, which is why all these companies suffer. Is again, this is like what I just said about the development in the middle is getting squoze, and we brought this up with when we talked about GEC. You've got your shiftless layabout, compliant and pliable new hires at the bottom. And then you've got like the power structure at the top that's full of activists and ideology and like, you know, wheeling and dealing with the stakeholders. And then you got like the developers in the middle who have to just deal with like the tools that they have. And they're generally not either given enough time, or they're getting phased out for new people who don't have the talent, skill, or ability to actually deal with anything other than just the default settings, and aren't willing to put in the extra time and effort to import a new mesh into the metahuman middleware system that's causing all the problems. So the ideology is in the middle.
So and the issue is that it is, but basically when you load up this tool, you will have to consciously go into the system and change it to make the female models look feminine. And according to this leaker, this person, it's a very, you know, annoying and tedious and long process. So you would have to have the drive to change it. So now let me finish what my notes here. So the developer argues that the tool's default female models feature strong jawlines, high foreheads, and androgynous features, lacking traditional feminine curves or softness, requiring significant artistic effort to reshape the faces into appealing designs. This, they suggest, explains the trend in AAA games where female characters often appear masculine, attributing it to either lazy artists or the tool's limitations. Although there is I think that it is a couple of things. I think, John, you kind of touched on it when you said that there's like this time crunch, so you don't have the time to put into, you know, sort of like making it look just right. And I think that's true. I think there's laziness. I think there's lower skilled people that are working here, i.e. DEI hires that are doing this work that they're lazy, or they don't know how to like alter it. And they're going with these sort of simple tools. I mean, imagine, you know, when you play a video game that lets you make custom characters, some people could spend like hours just making the character just right. I remember when Fallout 4 was coming out, I never played it, but I saw a lot of people posting their, you know, various like custom made characters. They base them on memes, or they base them on, you know, SpongeBob characters, or you know, they make handsome Squidward, or they base them off of real like people that they were trying to like get. And the Fallout 4, I believe their custom creator did have a lot of options, but it
Yep.
took a lot of time. And the only people that were willing to put in that time were the people who cared enough about it, you know, to use it to its full potential. Imagine that, but it's way less intuitive because you have to actually understand, you know, how to use them, alter the meshes and whatnot.
Right.
And you're
And the
giving it
different
to
points
people.
within the
Yeah,
mesh
and
itself.
exactly. And you're giving this a job to people who either are low skilled, lazy, or worse of all, which is actually the most likely, ideologically, like, you know,
Captured
inclined.
people.
Yeah, they're ideologically captured or are ideologically inclined to actually just go with that. Oh, I like that this is androgynous, right? I too have a problem with my gender. So I think that this, now again, it's important to note that this is just one engine, and there are lots of other companies that use different graphics engine
Mhm.
to accomplish this goal. And I don't like. I think that it's important to note that most likely there is an ideological push for this stuff, and this is just like a shortcut. Because again, if you have people that are low skilled or lazy, and you give them this job, and maybe you want them to make, you know, masculinized female characters or androgynous characters, then you might just not say anything and let them do it. And it'll probably just turn out the way you like because the defaults are already there. And maybe
Right.
they're inclined to think that there's something normal about the default because it's called the default.
Right.
So
That's why well, I mean, that's why it's baked into the middleware. It's the stuff we were talking about, like I said last week on GDC, the way that they lead is from the top down. And so they use a lot of these middleware tools these days, in-game design, because it's all a widget process, right? These are the tools, this is the thing, and then, like, you know, and so it's very structured, and it doesn't really leave much room for creativity, which when you're in a creative medium might be a little bit of an issue. But yeah, a lot of these people that are probably doing the modeling at this point in time finally feel they're being represented and they've been seen. So we just get you know, the end result. I mean, like I did a lot of character modeling back when I was in art school. And most any video game I can make myself within a few hours. I have almost a pixel perfect representation of myself in Cyberpunk. I live in Night City, basically.
oh wow, cool.
Yeah, I'll have to show you an image after the show. I'll send it to you in DMs.
Yeah,
But yeah.
let me check it out. I didn't mess around with that's what I'm saying. See, like I didn't mess around that much with my cyberpunk characters. I was going for something kind of, you know, almost like comic booky in its appearance. So I just went with like whatever I thought would look good, but I didn't really think, oh, I'm gonna make me. Yeah.
Thankfully,
Oh,
I look very comic booky.
Okay. I did make Giga Chad for my Elden Ring character though, like gray skin and everything, giant jaw. I thought it was hilarious. But anyway, so you were saying, I don't know if you were finished, but
Oh well, I was just saying, like, yeah, no, like, it does come down to, you actually have to know how to utilize the tools, because even at the end user level, when you're making your own creative character within a game, you are still using some aspect of that middleware to so everything is within certain constraints, and so you have to know, like, different parts of bone structure within the face and all this kind of stuff to get it you know, just right. And if you're dealing with a mesh that's been subdivided in such a way that it just is not possible, like the way that this rig is set up, you can see it within, like, the physiology of the face map. It's damn near impossible to utilize their base mesh that they have in the MetaHuman design tool. And since most companies now are just using you know, Unreal Engine 5 as their main middleware, if they don't actually have somebody there who is a legitimate, you know, character artist and wants to actually go and make a character that looks appropriate, and they're just using the base tools because their budget only allows for them to have just enough time to do it. So, and there might be somebody who's breathing down their neck saying, well, we can't, you know, have you going and, like, you know, wasting, you know, 50 hours of your time to make a new base edit for the female characters. Then you kind of have to deal with what you're given there. And, like, there's just no way with the base mesh to get a woman that doesn't have, like, a squared jawline. It's hilarious.
That woman pictured, by the way, the one I'm showing you, that is a woman. I know it looks like Jeremy Irons, but it's not. It's a woman. So And they also, it's not just the faces, okay? It's also the bodies.
Yeah.
So like the default starting bodies are also androgynous. No, this is a female body, no ass, no tits. But you have to basically like do the work to make them look female. Now, Master Goa in the chat said that he doesn't blame the engine, and I agree. I don't think, obviously, it's not the engine. I think there are people behind it that are they're basically trying to nudge. They always do it in small steps, okay? It's always a little nudge. So if you go in and you want to put in the work and the time and the effort to make the female models look like female models, then they can't really stop you, right? But if you just if you tolerate this as a default, then over time you normalize this, and that's what they want. Right. They want to normalize this stuff. So but they can't be overt because people catch on and they react. So
which is why they put it in things like the middleware. And so yes, it is not the engine inherently, other than the fact that it's got this middleware process now baked into it, to where it's like, oh well, why waste all your time, when you can just use these preforms and then adjust them to your needs. But then they give you such small constraints on what is even adjustable because the subdivisions just aren't there. Like they need to actually have like a female model that is a different base mesh entirely than what it is that they use for, because what they want to do, and that is the reason that it's androgynous, is they want something that in theory can shift to a man or to a woman. They effectively have like, this androgynous hermaphroditic kind of base mesh, and you can turn it into a man fairly easily. And since most games are kind of geared towards, or at least historically had been geared towards having like men with rugged features, things like that, and more angular kind of facial constructions, that stuff's easy inside of a 3D engine to churn out. And if you're making a piece of middleware that you want to be highly adaptable, you can go and you can sell it by showing like these great headshots of male characters and this and that, and then you can go and you can find like a woman who is a little bit more, I guess, angular in their face as well, and you can sell that it's actually doing like a really good job of capturing these details on the human body. But generally the women that they have when they show stuff like that aren't necessarily what we consider classically attractive either. So
well, they don't want they don't want them to be objectified. So that's the thing what people miss, because I noticed that it's a lot of women that get bent out of shape over the man jaw thing too. And what they think is, oh, this is an attack on women. What you don't get is that this is actually being perpetrated by feminists. They're basically saying, oh, well, attractive women, men are going to see them as like gooner material or sexual objects or whatever. So we have to make them unappealing. And then what we'll do is we're going to make them ugly, and then we're going to call it realism. So you can't criticize it. And that's what we're going to force on you. That's why and you'll hear that even from the most sex positive feminists out there, like Leanna Kersner, for example, who was supposedly pro Gamergate. They'll be like, oh, well, I want to see women with cellulite and scars and old age and wrinkles and bags under their eyes and whatever, right? And piercings and all the stuff that like is generally unappealing, and they'll normalize that as, oh, don't you want realistic women? I don't want them to be objects. But the thing is, there is plenty of space for something to be aesthetically pleasing without it necessarily being pornographic. But they will see all of it that way, because if it appeals to men, that's the problem. It's not about like, it's not necessarily about the androgyny and the trans queer ideology getting into stuff. It's more about, or I think at least when it comes to the women, it's about the male gaze, exactly. And that's what they're really fighting against. And so like when I think, Vara Dark, and I'm not, this is not me criticizing her, I'm just using her as an example. She makes videos about this stuff, and she would be like, she's a big fan of like attractive females, but when she sees unattractive females, she tends to lean, and there's a lot of females that do this too, because they think it's about them in a way. So they lean on this idea that, oh, this is like because you don't like women, this is an attack on women, this is a kind of misogyny. It's like, no, no, no. When you say that, when you say this is misogyny or reverse racism, like these kinds of terms, you are losing because you are playing into the trap of operating within their framework. You got to see this as not as that. Like the reason why so many men, and it's not, it is a growing number, especially younger guys. The reason why so many young men are like feeling like women, like they're experiencing gender dysphoria, or maybe they want to cross dress, or maybe they see themselves as trans. It's not because they hate women. It's because they hate themselves so much that they want to be women. Like they think that their life would be better. Why would men hate themselves? Can anyone give me an idea why men might hate themselves enough that they would choose to live as a woman? Like I spoke to a guy a few years ago. It was a incel in Germany that was part of something called transmaxing, which is essentially like going all out to like live as a woman. And I just asked him straight up, like, why are you doing it? He's like, well, because women have it better. And I mean, like, I'm not even arguing that that's true or not true, but the fact that he said that this was the reason why he was going down this road, it tells you like, yes, because why wouldn't men perceive that? I mean, I don't think that's the correct solution to the problem. No. That's what I would warn against doing that. You know, you have to find a way to be satisfied with yourself as you are. That's like a very important thing that people have to do. But to pretend as though the masculinization of women is actually about attacking women, it's fallacious. I mean, that's a side effect. The main thing is to desexualize women in fictional, you know, products like video games, like movies, whatever, because they don't like the fact that men like women. It's ultimately anti-male at its core, and then like the reaction from men towards it, especially if they frame it in this kind of, you know, like in this I don't know, like this frame of like sexism or oppression, it actually it actually feeds back into it because you're essentially supporting the premise, which is wrong. So okay, so anyway, I digressed quite a bit, but because I actually have a couple of other stories that are related to this that I thought these are going to like marry themselves pretty well.
Indeed, as we often do.
The thing is that realism is the excuse to make things ugly and androgynous. Nobody wants realism anyway, like at least not to that extent. You know, they want something to be immersive, but that's not the same as being realistic. But it's their excuse. Ultimately, it's about making somehow putting women in things without making those women appealing to men, because that's what they're trying to square that circle, right? How do we put more female main characters and stuff, but not have men like, you know, enjoy it at all, like ogle them, right? So that's the trick. And so you get like the stuff that we've been seeing, you know, the new Perfect Dark, the new what is it, the Star Wars Outlaws or whatever, and and Horizon and all these other games, they're all doing that, and that's simply because, you know, this is where it's going. So like women are now, they're speaking up about it because they don't like that it's making women unattractive. But that doesn't mean, that's not because they hate women. It's because this is what these women have to get. Okay, this is what I'm asking. I'm asking any of the women in this space that are fighting in this culture war on our side, like Vera Dark or whoever, right? This is not about you. This is about they're attacking men's tastes. Like before these people came along, you could see that Lara Croft was feminine and attractive, right? And yes, some people are going to see that as like sexually stimulating, but that's not something you can control. You just have to leave it be. People sexualize Pokemon. Like you just have to let it go. Okay.
Just ask Toilet Watt. John Del Ross.
It doesn't matter, right? No, it doesn't matter. So, but instead you have to say, look, because when you liked it was before these people came along and changed it. So obviously the male gaze was necessary to make this stuff attractive. By the way, male gaze is not a thing, which is why I put it in quotes. But I'm just saying Like you have to understand that this isn't about attacking women. It's about attacking men's desire for women. That's what it is. Ultimately, it's about pathologizing male sexuality.
Yeah, I think it's about undermining the entire human experience myself, because I'm sure.
Oh yeah, because that's where it leads. That's
yeah,
where it
I
leads.
mean,
yeah.
Anybody's been watching us do these streams for the last 6 months knows that I'm constantly speaking about the transhumanist agenda and how, like, you know, this trans ideology fight is just, you know, these are just mile markers on the road to their ultimate destination, which is the dissolution of humanity, and, you know, just kind of having this androgynous middle state of people that, you know, when I wrote Haven's Fall, that was kind of like the whole concept behind it, is that in the future there would be this elitist kind of system set up where they actually made a religion about desexualization, you know, and how, like, the way that you could find yourself to be ascended was to get beyond you know, the petty nature of man, of, like, you know, trying to be caught up in sexual, you know, interests and things like that. And so, like, their whole religion that they have in the game, to be ascended, you actually have to have your sexual organs removed. Of course, like, the people at the top weren't doing that, and they were, you know, basically running like this weird kind of like almost Epstein-esque kind of, you know, system, and you know, just exploiting people left and right effectively, and taking away their you know, connection to their own humanity, so that they could, you know, live on through life extension technologies that they get from doing all these weird surgeries and hormone therapies and things like that. So I think that this is a reinforcement of that, that comes from, you know, people have to remember that Unreal, they are part of the stakeholder politics, stakeholder kind of capitalist, which I just would call corporatist driven globalism motives of places like Tencent. You know, Tencent owns a good chunk of Unreal, and so you know, China constantly takes with one hand while giving with the other. They make it so that a lot of American designers have to deal with, you know, limitations that are put right there in the middleware. And unless you actually have somebody who's defiant enough to actually just go and work the late nights and put in the time to correct the situation that's been put in there by default, you're going to end up with these you know, he she kind of looking women characters, and you know, and so that damages our creative output because it's all through these constraints. But then over in China, you know, they put out these titles that people are like, oh man, this looks really good, this looks really fun and exciting, and, like, you know, like, it looks like something that I can get immersed in. And so they're playing us for fools because they're not allowing us to compete on a level playing field. It is completely lopsided, and they're on the high end of the table where they have, like, you know, all the access to doing things creatively. And then over here on this end, we're stuck with, like, you know, these broken tools effectively that aren't going to allow for any kind of adequate outcomes, let alone anything that's actually stellar and stands out. And, like, and that's also the homogenization of games, and why so many things look the same is because they're all using the same sets of middleware, because it's easy for a company to justify buying a piece of middleware, and once they buy it, they want you to use it, right? So, like, they don't invest all this time and effort into a thing just for you to go and say, yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and just do it the way that I always do. So, you know, that's, again, like, the developers in the middle, like, whether they want to or not, some of them are just being constrained by not being given anything other than the most meager, you know, access to actually churn anything out. And so they do the best they can. And if they're dealing with those default base meshes, it's not going to be anything that anybody's really going to be pleased by, who actually has human sensibilities.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I get that, but I do think that we are fighting back. At least, like, people sense that something is wrong, and there's more of a response to that, like a return to beauty. And as I said, I did a discussion with a guy named Fabian Liberty, who's like this, like, online libertarian debate bro. And I don't know that he quite got what I was getting at, but I was trying to explain to him that beauty is truth, and that is, like, that there is an ethics, there is a morality to beauty itself. And because there's an order. You guys are familiar with the you know, the Fibonacci spiral, or like the golden mean. you know, that this is sort of like a way of measuring it. Like there is a reason to beauty. There is a logic to it. There's also a morality to it. And this, you know, the people can just tell. Why is there such a concept as the uncanny valley? Well, because we as humans, there's like an instinct. We know when something doesn't look right. So that's why we see it. We're like, this is really weird. And that's because it's artificial, right? Ultimately, it's artificial. It's constructed. And I think that we are able to see it.
Yeah, back in art school, they used to always have me stand up in front of the class and they're like, so this is an example of golden geometry, and they like point out like all the points on my face, and they're like this guy, like my pinkies are off though. Like I have pinkies that are out of proportion to the rest of my body. But other than that though, like they were like, yeah, this is exactly what we're talking about here. So, you know, if you haven't seen me before, I've been called the middle-aged Giga Chad in recent years, and I had an offer to be a model for Hugo Boss and Fuel Jeans and a few other things like 20 years ago, but that's not really the time or place to talk about that.
Okay, all right. Well, it's okay. But yeah, anyway, let me know what you guys think about this one in the comments. We're gonna move on to the next story. In related news, let's talk about somebody who actually does understand beautiful women. So in the world of comics, you might have heard of a guy named Jason Scott Campbell. And he was, do you guys remember the 90s comic books? If you were read comics in the 90s, there was a this guy named Jason Scott Campbell kind of came out of nowhere with a book called Gen 13. And I don't have like any covers, but you know, essentially the thing that made it stand out was his designs. His art in general is good, but the way that he drew women in particular was very attractive. And he got into a lot of trouble for that because, you know, the woke scolds, they were around for a long time. And it was a big thing in the 90s to criticize everything that people like Jason Scott Campbell or Jim Lee, or one of my favorites, Arthur Adams, who Arthur Adams was he's actually the person that Jason Scott Campbell took a lot of his inspiration from. This is an image by Arthur Adams, one of my all-time favorite comic artists. He did X-Men for a while. He worked slow, so like he would often do covers or he would do annual books. So he did this design for Storm, and this is another example of Arthur Adams's period with the X-Men. He even designed and created the character of Longshot, which I don't know if you guys know who Longshot is. Again, I'm getting into deep X-Men nerd lore, but Arthur Adams is one of my favorite artists. So anyway, Jason Scott Campbell decided to make fan art for Marvel Rivals, and this got him into hot water. So we've talked about Marvel Rivals on this channel a few times because I have basically been banging the drum on how this is how you do art design well. This is how you design characters well. They're following every single rule, which really, you know, isn't that hard to do if you're not ideologically captured. And that's why they are successful. It is full stop why they are successful. It's appealing to look at. And I'm not even getting into any of the sort of like Gooner material stuff. It doesn't even matter, right? It's appealing in general. So he did a series of illustrations. So I'm going to try and find an example for Marvel Rival. This is like a video here. And let me tell you what this kind of started, okay? So Campbell announced 4 new artist-exclusive covers for Marvel Rivals #1, with the first featuring Psylocke, which is Psylocke is the ninja, psychic ninja chick with the leotard that everyone really likes. He basically shared his process, so you can look at it here. Let me find, here are the 4 images he created. So this is Psylocke. Yep, it's very well done. This is Squirrel Girl.
Pretty.
Another one. Yep. This is Luna Snow, and then there is Invisible Woman, and there might be more. I don't know. So, so anyway, a chart of the characters includes custom artwork by others in Campbell's iconic style. So other people have done fan interpretations of the work that he has done. However, Some people are not so thrilled with this. They are melting down with posts on X, labeling it as gooner bait and criticizing the hyper sexualized. I put that in quotes because I think the word sexualized is a bit of a made up word, let's say, by these people. Take as out of touch or pandering, especially in a game already packed with diverse heroes. This split mirrors broader sentiment in the gaming community about Marvel Rivals balancing fan service with inclusivity, attention amplified by its rapid rise to over 130 million in revenue within the first month. It's made 130 million and the game is free to play. So I haven't spent a cent on it, but it goes to show that if you make something that people really like, they will open their wallets for it. Critically, the establishment narrative pushes Campbell's art as a nostalgic nod to classic Marvel aesthetics, you know, when the women look like women. But the backlash suggests it might also reflect, according to some, an outdated lens that clashes with modern gaming's evolving audience.
Right.
So, and of course, this is, I think, in a way, I mean, NetEase's support for this kind of shows that they're exploiting this controversy to drive more people towards their game. But then, like, Jason Scott Campbell has never been one to like back away from controversy. As like I mentioned before, he got in trouble for this Mary Jane illustration. Let me put it back on the screen for you guys, which was the cover of an Amazing Spider-Man comic book. And they were like, this is unrealistic. There were women, I swear to God, there were women trying to replicate this pose because they wanted to demonstrate that it couldn't be done.
I've seen it for science.
Yeah. Anyway, so I just wanted to share that. I thought it was pretty
that is
interesting.
a far cry from Mary Jowls that we saw in the last Spider-Man game.
Yes. So let me see. Somebody said, "Heck yeah, Squirrel Girl." I'll put those back up on the screen so you guys can look at it again.
And they'd like to demonize the word sexualized because, you know, to be sexualized is to be gendered, and that's the thing that none of us are supposed to be. You know, like that's the whole idea of like having this androgyny, you know, push. Is because, you know, like if you're a man or a woman, which you can only be a man or a woman, well, then you're already starting off on the wrong foot. And so, like, you know, like we'll just say that it's sexualized, and then that way we can kind of like add a pervy connotation to it, and ultimately get to, you know, the thing that we're actually after, which is the, you know, just the undermining of humanity in its own right.
Yeah. I also want to make another point too. Like some of these, so like Marvel has been dealing with people trying to essentially make it not for men for like ever since probably like before 2010. I didn't notice until after that. I think it was like when they made the female Thor book, but it even predates that. And they have a couple of sacred cows that they have like taken over and altered. One of them is Squirrel Girl, who is pictured here. So I don't know if you guys know, but Squirrel Girl is an older character, came out like in the 80s or 90s or something. And she was kind of almost like a joke character. There was this team, I think they're called like the Great Lakes Avengers or something. And they were kind of leftover characters like Flat Man and Squirrel Girl, and Big Bertha was like this really fat woman. And I don't, maybe there was another one, but they were kind of like the leftovers. Like they were characters that they were one-shotted, maybe they didn't work out, and they were like, let's put them in a team and have some fun with it. And at the time
of heroes.
Yeah, at the time, Squirrel Girl was just like kind of like this joke character. And then over time they, you know, they tried to do stuff to make the character more interesting. And then the feminists took over. And around like the 2010s or whatever, they tried to make a feminist-friendly Squirrel Girl, which is why she, you know, they made her kind of fat. Like not here. Obviously, Jason Scott Campbell is incapable of making women unattractive. So he made her just extra voluptuous. But in the show or in the comics, they made her kind of fat and goofy. And, you know, it was kind of like this gross, like feminist interpretation of the character. So when she came to Marvel Rivals and they made her attractive again, this has basically like driven these people insane because, again, it goes back to the man jaw thing. The purpose is that men are not allowed to enjoy this stuff. That's what the problem is. And so this is what they do. She was a callback to the Silver Age. Yes, that's right. Marin Rebarik. Thank you. So this is their issue, and they really don't like that people like Jason Scott Campbell are actually doing this art because he's very good at what he does, and he wants the women to look good. I mean, that's what it is. So Psylocke is the same. She's always been controversial. I think whenever because I remember the old days. Just as an aside, in the old days, Psylocke did not look like this. She was not a ninja with I don't even know what the story is. They completely changed the character. She was just another psychic, but I kind of dug that one, but I understand why they changed it because you can't have it becomes redundant. You got Professor X and Jean Grey and Psylocke. It's just kind of redundant. So you got to do something new with it. So I kind of get it. But Jim Lee was responsible for this design, and they hated it. And I think, and for a while, it was actually a lot of these, these characters that are throwbacks to the 90s were very un-PC up until very recently, basically up until this game was released. And then people were reminded, oh yeah, women, they look good. I remember that. The Invisible Woman, like a straight up blonde, blue-eyed white woman, they couldn't handle it.
Scandalous.
Absolutely. And that was one of the things that they didn't like, even though Storm is in the game and I play her. She's one of my main, because I love Storm, and she's in the game, but that doesn't count. She doesn't count for whatever reason. So anyway, I don't know if you have any thoughts on this, but if not, we can move on.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of my thoughts echo your own when it comes to what took place with because Marvel was already enemies behind the gate before they got purchased outright by Disney. And that only exacerbated the problem and made it further entrenched and harder to get beyond. And I don't know if we're going to talk about any of the stuff with Daredevil, because quite honestly, I'm not watching the new series. I've heard a few people kind of try to say, oh, it's good again. But Sana Amanat, who very noted feminist, she's behind
also very good
Miss
friends
Marvel.
with the Obamas.
Right. She's the head of she's one of the head producers on that show. So I wouldn't if you've watched the first few episodes and you're sitting here saying I think it's a return to form, don't hold your breath. The series the season is far from done, and if they somehow manage to bait you into this season and make you think that it's all okay, just wait for their already greenlit season 2, where where the gloves really come off and they go right back into what. I mean, they at Disney they're one of the progenitors of this PC culture, which is what it was called back in the 90s, and the Disney Corporation has not been anything more than an empty logo for 30 years now. It's the Buena Vista Corporation that uses the Disney logo as a way to promote themselves as being Disney, but it's an intellectual property house that's basically just a hedge fund that operates under the idea that if it just buys out all of its competition, then it can effectively do whatever it wants in the market space. And so, it's not hard for them to have this ideological creep come in when they go from the top down kind of movers and shakers that are behind these directives, and then hire a specific kind of person. This all began back in HR departments and slowly built over the years, where there's just been this replacement game going on until it got to the point to where if you came into the industry like I tried to in 2020, being as much of a Grand Theft Auto expert as anybody could be, and being headhunted by the company, they simply wouldn't hire me specifically because I am a problematic white guy, ostensibly, which is well, your game's Grand Theft Auto. Who do you think you're making it for? But yeah, I would say that I very much echo a lot of your sentiments on this, and that it's not going away anytime soon. But it is good to see when people are actually putting in the time and the effort, and not relying on simple middleware tools that go and remove their capacity to actually be creative.
Yeah. And so he's just getting a lot of hate. People are saying he doesn't know how to draw faces because they all look Asian and Caucasian at the same time, and that this is a Gooner art style. The guy's been doing this for decades, and you guys just look sad. I mean, it's I can't even argue against it. Look, I hate this style so much. Why does he always have to sexualize the women so much? And then somebody else said,
sexual beings.
"Please,
just
I
like
thought
men
it
are.
was just. I thought it was just me. You guys are literally becoming a problem. No, they've been a problem for a long time, Chaotic Nerd, because that's what customers want, and Marvel needs customers badly. Oh no, as a heterosexual man likes attractive women. The horror. You can just say you're jealous and move on. Yeah. So this is it. That like it's really because all Jason Scott Campbell had to do was make some appealing artwork, and they immediately lose control of the narrative. Immediately, people are like, "Oh yeah, that's what a woman looks like." And also, and this is the thing that's really funny: if you want to see this stuff without having to without even like say needing to point at a male that made it as a piece of art and with criticism, if you really want to just debunk these people immediately, go find any picture of a cosplayer doing this. Any picture. The women are doing it themselves, guys. So like if are they the enemy too? Where are her organs? Like that's a real person doing that. And there are real people who do this. Real women cosplayers that make shit tons of money going to conventions that dress up like this or wearing even less than this. This is very common. So anyway, I got this comment I wanted to address because it's interesting to get into the lore of stuff. So Gabriel, I'm sorry, Gabriel. Marin Rabarik says, wasn't Psylocke British? Wasn't she the sister of Captain Britain? Yes, she was. But here's the thing. So in the comics, what happened to her? She... All right.
She had a disease. It involves Archangel and a whole bunch of stuff.
It involves a lot of shit. But like, in 1989, during the Acts of Vengeance storyline, after passing through the Siege Perilous, a mystical artifact that gives a new chance at life, Betsy washed up on an island in the South China Sea, Amnesiac. She was captured by the Hand, the ninja clan from the Daredevil comics, and their leader, Matsuo Tsurayaba, who sought to use her telepathy to revive his comatose lover, Quanon, a Japanese assassin with minor psychic powers. Spiral, a villain from the Mojo-verse, facilitated a body swap. Betsy's mind was placed into Quanon's body and Quanon's mind into Betsy's. The process, however, blended her memories and skills, turning Betsy into Lady Mandarin. It goes on and on. There's a lot of shit that happens because this is the nature of comics, right? So, yeah, she got like a disease. I think it was called, let me see if I can find it in here because there's like a lot that happens. It was even like a, well, anyway, a new psychic knife ability, manifestation of her telepathy shaped like by Quanon's ninja training. This redesign made her the Psylocke most fans recognize today, a British telepath in a Japanese ninja's body, often drawn in a revealing costume that became iconic in the 90s X-Men comics. So, and that's the short version, but there's a lot of other stuff that happened, but that's kind of the short version of why is Psylocke a ninja now? Yes, she has been since the 90s though. Yeah. All right, but anyway,
the whole melodrama that involves Archangel and like it's like they were a thing and like it's you know what, go back and look into it. It's actually a pretty interesting story back when.
Well, it was Chris Claremont was writing it back then, and he was like the guy when it came to writing X-Men books. So yeah, he was definitely the guy. All right. Anyway, so let's move on to the next story. We're going to talk a little bit more about. This is going to be the theme appears to be, men and women. Okay. So
and superheroes, which is part of the reason why I put Crisis on today's thumbnail.
That's Crisis. True. That's interesting. I remember her from the Marvel vs. Capcom game. Oh yeah, that's right. That's how old it. That's how far back it goes. Okay, so let me just find my notes for this story here. Hold on a second. Okay. Sorry, it's just a moment. Okay, here we go.
Oh, that's right.
So, Anthony Mackie, pictured here, who you guys might know from the Marvel movies. He played the Falcon. That's the only thing I will acknowledge from as far as his work. He spoke candidly about his views on fatherhood and what he sees as a decline in traditional masculinity. focusing on how he's raising his 4 sons amidst these changes. So I want to play the clip. Now, here's the thing that this is, I think this is the thing I want to talk about. I think that when Mackie is speaking here and he's not like doing some press tour or he's not like on a panel or something, I think this is him speaking candidly. And, and this is the thing about like people in the business, okay, of Hollywood or whatever, is that I am fairly certain that there are more people who are not like completely on the woke train as we are led to believe, because the idea is to make it seem like it's normal so that everybody kind of goes along with it. But when you have people behind closed doors or they're doing something, you know, more, let's say, relaxed, they're in a relaxed position, they might say something they really believe. And of course, so like let's set aside the stuff that he's done with Marvel, with Disney Marvel for a moment. Yeah. And the stuff that he said, which I've given him shit for. Like we covered the thing where he said Captain America is not about America. I think that there's like what he's told to say or how he's supposed to see things, and then there's what he really thinks. And I think that even if those things aren't entirely connected, there is like a thread that goes through them. Okay, so here's him speaking on the Pivot podcast to a couple of guys, and I didn't watch the whole thing, but like it seems like a real conversation. Like they're not really, you know, you don't feel like there's like this back and forth. It's not shilly. It's not scripted, really. They're just kind of talking. And he's talking with a bunch of men. And this is what really matters. So he's sitting down with a bunch of other men and they're just talking about like whatever. And this comes up. So they asked him about his sons and how he's basically talking about how he doesn't like want to necessarily like drag his sons into the work that he does as an actor because he wants his sons to like do whatever they want. So he's giving them space. And it is interesting that he has sons because I think that has an effect on how you see the world when you see it through what is best for my children and you're thinking about your sons. But anyway, let's get a listen to this clip.
It's just that thing of, you know, in the past 20 years, we've been living through the death of the American male. They have literally killed masculinity in our homes and our communities for one reason or another. But I raised my boys to be young men. And however you feel about that, you feel about that. Right. But my boys will always be respectful. They will always say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. No, sir, no, ma'am. They will always say thank you. They will always open a door for a lady. They will always make sure that their mother is taken care and provided for. They will always be men. And that's always since they were 2 years old. Every time I left for a job, I tell my 15-year-old, you're the man of the house. You make sure these doors are locked every night, this alarm is on, you text me or you call me every night before you go to bed and you wake up.
I love that.
Because we're men.
So, okay, so let's a little bit of context. He's on a podcast with a bunch of black guys. I think he's specifically talking about, when he says our communities, he's talking about the black population. Right. But this is the thing that's really, and I've been talking about this a lot, this thing that's kind of interesting. So like there is a contradiction or a kind of a little bit of cognitive dissonance in the woke ideology, the progressive, intersectional feminist, whatever you want to call it. Okay. This leftist ideology. The thing that is a bit of cognitive dissonance that are always going to struggle with is that they have to somehow contain blackness with the consideration for the men that are in that population. Okay. And the issue is that black men are still men. And so because men are the enemy, because they are like when you boil down everything progressives believe, like, you know, there's anti-whiteism, or, you know, some people call it like anti-whiteness or anti-Westernness, anti-capitalist, you know, whatever it is. Everything boils down to men and women, though. Like that's where it starts. It's step one is demonize men. Step one. Okay. So how do you do that while also treating black men as a protected class? And so this is something that they will always struggle with. And if you go to like before the Black Lives Matter website washed itself of all of the, you know, all of the extra, all of their obvious commie gobbledygook, it used to say, yeah, they've concealed it or they've completely removed it. but it used to say that they were doing all these things for Black people. And one of them was, and it was like right up at the top too, it was reimagining the idea of the family unit, which means no fathers.
Right.
Well, essentially removing men or masculinity from Blackness. And of course, Black Lives Matter is, you know, it was headed up by like 3 like fat Black radical lesbians. So of course they were going, they hated men already. And that's the thing, like, how could you possibly like be pro Black and not be pro male? Because men, there are Black men, and those men want to be fathers, they want to raise children, they want to start families. And so this is the thing about where I think Mackie is running into this cognitive dissonance. So he says to the other Black men in this discussion that this is, you know, there has been an attack on the American male in our communities. But I don't know if he understands this, but this has been an attack on men in every community. It's just men, period, everywhere. White men, Black men, Latino men, fucking Muslim men, it doesn't matter. The men everywhere are being attacked. And and it's easy because most of the time when you do that, nobody notices, which brings me back to that first story where I said, why are men trying to be women? Because they don't think that being a man is good. They think it's better to live as a woman, even if you're faking it, because you just want to live in peace and you don't think you can get any because you've been surrounded by like endless narratives that are anti-male. For whatever, it doesn't matter what men do. It's always bad. Men existing is bad. There are plenty of TikTok videos of women saying, don't you hate it when men, and then that's the end of the statement, as though just them existing is bad, okay? Now, Mackie is right when he says there's been an attack in the last 20 years on the American male. But he's wrong because he's sort of compartmentalizing it as just Black men. And if he could just, and this is the thing about these people, you get them fixated on those other aspects, those like other parts of their identity, like whether they're gay, because gay men are also considered essentially the straight men of gay people because they're men. So they're men first. Being gay is like an extra, it doesn't matter. That's irrelevant. You know, that's why gay men can be attacked. Gay white men can be attacked because they're still men. Black men can be attacked if they step out of line. What do they call Larry Elder, who was like this, right-wing, like radio guy? They call him what? The black face of white supremacy. But ultimately, it's only because he's got the wrong ideas, and it helps that he happens to be a male because you can attack men. It's okay. Like nobody notices, you know? So I like that he said this because at least, this is what I'm going to say about this. At least he understands that there is an attack on men and masculinity. And I think that it's only a matter of time if he just continues pursuing the truth and being vocal about it and just stating what he believes, right? It's only a matter of time if he doesn't get caught up in his Blackness, because that's a trap. You get caught up in being Black, and it's going to stop you from actually seeing what's happening. If he can just take the blinders off there, he will see that his boys, who he wants to be good men, are going to have problems if he doesn't address the attack on masculinity, because he says, I'm going to raise my boys to be men. But what he doesn't realize is that all those like really great gentlemanly traits that he's like passing on, it's not going to serve them very well. Right. Like they're like, it's not. I mean, this is going to be an issue, but I am glad that he's saying that. And I think that this is the thing that, this is like what I think the real person is. Cause like, I've actually always liked Anthony Mackie. I don't like the Captain America stuff. I think it's awful, but I don't blame him because he's a guy looking for work and it's fine. But I've always liked him because he always came across as a genuine guy, which is why I thought he was a really good pick for Falcon. Because I just watched, I've been watching the old Marvel movies with my wife, and we just watched Falcon and the Winter Soldier. No, not Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I'm sorry. We just watched Captain America: The Winter Soldier, which is the premiere. Is when they introduced Sam Wilson and the Falcon. He's like a great character in that movie. Because you needed like, you know what he's like? He's like, if you've seen the original Ghostbusters, he is essentially the
Winston.
The Winston. Yeah, he's like the guy that's like in over his head, and he's like, well, that's exactly it. He's the Winston. And that's you need a guy like that. So he was a really good fit because everyone else is like, you know, Cap and Black Widow and a Winter Soldier. They're all like, they already know what's going on. And this guy is just getting dropped into it, but he's adapting and he's funny, you know, and I think he's a very charismatic guy. But I'm glad he said this. I think this is like, it's a really hard thing for a man to step up and say this. I remember Terry Crews said that years ago when there was like, I think it was Father's Day was coming up and he was on The View. I believe it was on The View or some show like it. And the hosts, the women that were up there, they were basically saying that, you know, Father's Day should be a celebration of single moms, stay-at-home mothers. And
I remember
he was
that.
like, yeah, and he basically said, I disagree with that because why? Because I think Terry Crews is also a dad, or he knew his dad, and so he didn't have a problem saying no. Fathers are very important. This was years ago, and it's still like getting ignored. And the funny thing is that ultimately, and this is the thing that a lot of people don't get, Black men are very conservative. They really are. Like they're like their ideas are very conservative. If they aren't raised in an abusive, violent, single mom household, they will come out like this. Like they'll come out and say, "I want, you know, these things for my kids." Like they, but the let's say the progressives or whatever, the woke, they're trying to destroy that masculine impulse, that masculine instinct to protect and provide for children and women. They exploit that, they demonize that, and then they like try to throw these guys, Black men, in with, you know, like trans people and queer people and like other races that they don't relate to. And they claim it's all like one big bucket of people who are oppressed by the straight, white, hetero, you know, cisgendered male. And the Black men and other men, Latino men, they're like, no, we don't get that. Why do you think an overwhelming majority, record numbers of minority men came out and voted for Trump? Because they were like, I've had enough of this, and I'm not in your club. And I hope that they realize, and this is the last thing I'll say about this. I hope they will realize that it has everything to do with them being men and nothing to do with them being like of a minority group or having a different sexual preference. That's irrelevant. It is the fact that you are men. And that's what you have to push back against. So anyway, yeah, I don't know if you want to say anything.
Oh yeah, no, I mean the focus on diversity traits is a way to undermine the common ground of humanity. And so like that's like this whole like, you know, like push for multiculturalism and things like that. Like it's Morgan Freeman, you know, has said it is like, if you want to focus on history, focus on history. There's no Black History Month. There's just history that happened, you know. And when they utilize this idea of trying to compartmentalize people's identities into, you know, these smaller factions, then their whole purpose is to destabilize anybody's ability to actually have our unity through our humanity, because that's the whole idea of like, you know, like, well, there's no men, there's no women, there's just, you know, like these gender ideologies, you know, and everything like that. And part of the gender ideology is the idea of the multicultural ideology, and how like your experience as this group or that group somehow makes it any different than the suffering and struggling that someone else may have that isn't adjacent to you and like part of your quote unquote community. So, you know, like it used to be the purpose of storytelling was so that people could find themselves, you know, through another character, not necessarily being that other character, but to actually go and find the commonality of our humanity and say, oh, well, that relates and that transcends any of our unique, you know, our uniqueness. And, you know, like we're all, you know, special snowflakes, right? But ultimately we're either men or we're women. And so like there's like this human experience that is very easy to tie into regardless of where you come from in this world. Ultimately, we're all kind of like, you know, trying and striving for the same things. And so that's, you know, how we can actually find a road to actually, you know, more unified kind of like understanding of each other, is by getting away from these, you know, little diversity traits that would otherwise focus on like, you know, like our differences and creating that division. Then, you know, if we can actually just go and say, yeah, well, you know, that's like, because like the very thing they preach is the very thing that they're losing. Is like, it's like humanity is more than skin deep, and then they go and they make it all about these surface details and losing the whole plot of our humanity on the whole in the process.
Yeah, and remember when Anthony Mackie was on the Wendy Williams show and he made a comment about women making daddy a sandwich? So I think that I think that he's got like something in him that wants to fight back against this, but he's not able to get around because the truth is, like we are all conditioned over way long. He said 20 years. It's been way longer than that to essentially treat women like essentially our ability to reason or make arguments or take action in the world can only move at the speed of women's emotions. So if women are made uncomfortable by something, men will slow down, and that's something that we have to fight against. And for most men, it's going to be very difficult, especially as we have multiple generations. So not just one, multiple generations of missing fathers. Imagine, let's say you have a young Zoomer black man today, as an example. He doesn't know his father, and
he didn't know his father,
who also didn't know his father, who likely also didn't know his father. So you have 3 generations removed from any male role model in your life, that is biologically related to you. Where do those men go to find out what it means to be a man? Well, they're not learning it from their mom. They're not learning it from their aunts. They may not know, they may not only not know their fathers or grandfathers or great grandfathers, they might not know uncles, because if it depends on how far removed you are, or they're not they just know their mom's boyfriend, the guy who's staying at their house, right? They're a stepdad, right? And there's no desire or incentive to connect those people. They're not biologically connected or anything. And so where do those boys go? Well, they look to their peers. They look to guys their age who also don't have fathers and don't have grandfathers. So this is where they're getting their lessons, their life lessons about being a man from. And it's very unhealthy because those peers don't know shit either. That's how you form. That's how you get gangs. That's how it happens. So they're looking for something. And then where do they go? They go to their cultural institutions. They look at the men that are on TV, on the internet, that are famous, and then they model their behavior after them. So yeah, it is a trap, and unfortunately, it's only going to get worse unless men start fighting back, and women should help. I mean, but they would have to notice first, and that's where we are now, trying to get them to see this is going on. But yeah, he was on Wendy Williams, and there are other men who have pushed back against this stuff. There was a study that he brought up when he was on that he made a reference to in a 2024 National Research Group study that Mackie referenced in this podcast, I believe, shows that 43% of young men aged 13 to 30 feel uncertain about manhood, which supports his concern, but doesn't but yeah, and basically his statement about masculinity is being read as anti-feminist, which I wish it was, but it is going to get him in trouble, I think. So I don't know what you guys think about that, but I thought I would share. And yeah, somebody in the comments said, the Saltpeter Taffy said, this bastard was an active agent in the degradation of his son's futures. He's been playing weak men since the very beginning of his career. He helped create the culture they will consume. I mean, I think that most of what has been available for men to do, especially black men, is a kind of beta male character or some kind of bull fantasy for women. That's basically the roles that men play, black men especially in film. But I'm hoping that that might change. I don't know. I'm hoping that will, because I understand that I know that Trump doesn't have control over Hollywood, but he did sort of nominate or present a coalition between a couple of actors. I think it was Sylvester Stallone, John Boyd, and Mel Gibson, who essentially like make Hollywood great again. And I mean, dude, the fact that he picked Mel Gibson is like amazing. But I'd like to see. I mean, there was a movie that's in theaters right now. I think it's called The Working Man, and it was written by one of the base writers that was doing work for Comicsgate. He was a well-known comic book artist or comic book writer as well, but I can't remember his name off the top of my head. So I do see like people are craving this, and I think that we're just gonna have another sort of like what potentially will happen is we'll get another resurgence like we did in the 70s when the first Rocky came out, where people were like really needing something masculine and aspirational, and maybe we'll get that. I'm hoping that'd be really nice, wouldn't it?
It would
So
be.
yeah, but I don't disagree, Saltpeter Taffy, but I think we should let's be patient with people like Mackie and encourage them to seek the truth, because then when they make a choice based on what their new information is, then we can like either give them shit or not based on that. Generic Jam says the movie, he's talking about The Working Man, is about stopping human traffickers. So of course it hits close to home for the elites. Yeah. That's true. Very interesting. But yes, I knew that. Remember when what that other movie about human trafficking came out and everybody was losing their shit over it? Sound of Freedom?
Yeah.
Did you ever see that?
I have not had a chance to watch it, but I know that it got shelved for a long time before it was even able to get a distribution.
Yeah, like 7 years. I think that one of the people that was on board to like possibly fund it was actually like, Disney's Buena Vista or whatever, but they never, they just said, oh, we'll get to it. And then they just shelved it. So yeah. And I think I saw it. I thought it was great. And it was actually, you expect it to be a lot darker than it was, but it was very tastefully done. And I think that it's an important movie, especially because of how much people hate it. They were calling it the QAnon movie and shit. But now it's coming out that like QAnon might have been right and Pizzagate was real. Doesn't surprise me at all. But yes, I think I said this last week. If you haven't seen it yet, the red pill is going mainstream like never before. Okay. So Ian Carroll was on Joe Rogan. That was an amazing podcast. Candace Owens was on Theo Vaughn's podcast. Like, none of this, like this is, it's out there. It's out there now. Let's all just have the conversation. Okay. Stop pretending it's not happening. Let's have the conversation. Let's find out what's true and what's not. But anyway, for that. So, okay. Any final thoughts on this?
Just kind of piggyback on what you said really quick. Like, I think that in terms of ideologies, I've said this for a long time. It's probably one of the more controversial things I say because it tends to piss people off in all directions. But I think that you always are going to have a certain amount of brutality and censorship when it comes to government, right? And governance. One side will generally censor you through brutality, and the other one will kind of brutalize you into censorship, right? But if I have to choose between those things, I would much rather, deal with something that is outright a threat and let you know kind of where the boundaries lie than to be gaslit while you're being undermined and overwhelmed only to be consumed and lose your ability to do anything about it, because you're going to end up at some point in time dealing with the stick one way or the other, right? And so I would much rather see the pointed side of the spear rather than get stabbed in the back. I want it coming at me. Like I would rather deal with a spear chucker than somebody who just stabs me from behind and then has me on a pike that I can't even get off of. So but yeah, it's an interesting time that is not going to change anytime soon, which is why we have to constantly keep our head on a swivel and be aware of it and look for these things, to encounter headlong so that we can actually see it for what it actually is rather than allow it to flank us and get behind us and, erode the ground that we stand upon.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for those thoughts. And let me know what you guys think about this one in the comments. Now we're going to get to our last story, and then I think we'll have some time for cake as well.
Woo!
So,
indeed.
Hideki Kamiya is in the news. You might know Hideki Kamiya, who worked for Capcom and gave us some amazing video games back in the day, like Okami, pictured here, as well as games like Beautiful Joe and the wonderful 101, Devil May Cry, Bayonetta, right? So just an amazing director that gave us some classics. And he's in the news because he had some thoughts about the current state of game development. So Kamiya, the guy behind classics like Okami and Devil May Cry, is all about bringing back individual-driven creativity at Clovers, which is a new game development studio. Clovers, plural. Something he thinks the gaming industry has lost to a corporate obsession with profits over art. He's working on an Okami sequel announced at Game Awards 2024. Yeah. And in an interview with Games, we'll look at the Okami sequel trailer after this, but there isn't much being shown. I think it's sort of like a teaser thing, but that's okay. He's working on an Okami sequel, like I said, announced at the Game Awards 2024. And in an interview with GameSpark, he shared how his love for anime, mecha, and tokatsu shaped his style. He's worried that games tied to specific creators like Hideo Kojima or Yoko Taro are fading, replaced by a safer, product-focused approach. At Clovers, Kamiya wants to create a space where devs can let their unique quirks shine, crafting games that feel personal and passionate, not just market-driven. It's a noble goal, but I can't help wondering if the industry shift is more about survival than greed. Smaller studios often struggle without big backing, and larger studios are seeing their profits collapse because they're putting the wrong kind of content in their games. Still, Kamiya's passion for creativity over conformity is clear, and I'm curious to see how well Clovers does, assuming that they get the appropriate amount of support. So, yeah, we'll check out that as well. Generic Jam. He asked if Silent Hill F is on the docket. We'll look at that trailer as well. So anyway, yeah, what do you think about that?
Well, I think that anybody who wants to actually lead a project through talent, skill, and ability and artistic passion, I think that's the thing that predominantly is lacking in the game industry right now. And it is certainly harder for the independents, because like that's the thing I hear a lot of people like saying, like, I mean, we ourselves do a lot to promote the idea of supporting independent games here on this channel. Doing these streams specifically, and I've got a lot of contemporaries now that are starting to pick up the banner in doing that. But to think that you can just rely on the independence in and of itself is kind of a misnomer these days, because I know through my own research specifically that they put a power structure in play. That's what Landfall is. That's what Pipeworks is about. Like all these things that the structure in Canada, Weird Ghost, Baby Ghost, Sweet Baby Inc., all that kind of stuff is coming from top-down money sources through government-funded think tanks, amongst other kind of state-based systems that are about propagating this corporatist globalism ultimately to take hold. And they're using faux independent companies, it's been mentioned here before. Ubisoft used to put out 30 to 50 games a year. Now they put out one big keystone title generally every quarter, and they do that by pump and dumping through ideological captured companies that are smaller and seemingly independent. That's where Kim Bel-Air came from. She was hired into Ubisoft as part of their HR marketing department area of production, and she got outsourced and spun out and funded to create her power structure. And then she's one of the people who's also connected with Landfall, as I understand, and so it's a very pervasive thing, and it's not easy to actually find the good stuff, which is why we do what we do at the end of the show, showing people things to look forward to that haven't been undermined by the ideological takeover, because it can happen at any level. It happens far more in the AAA sphere of the game industry, but it is also very much a part of independent, quote unquote, game development these days. So you definitely have to keep your eyes open and always be ready to find something that's hidden behind a few layers of, I guess the pyramid scheme that drives a lot of the money into these projects and shapes them through the production end of the marketing and, where their power bases lie.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm really excited for
This looks
this guy
good.
to get some work out here. And I want to know, like, have you guys ever played? Because I actually own Okami, Beautiful Joe. Those were like, there was a period there where like everything was just the nonstop goodness, especially the Okami, which had such an incredible style. And then there's the stuff by Suda 51, which was really interesting, like Killer 7.
No More Heroes.
No More Heroes. Yeah, No More Heroes. I never played Lollipop Chainsaw. I think that was one of his as well. So, let me know. Have you guys played any of these games? What do you think about them? Have you been meaning to? I think that, typically when a new game, a sequel comes out, the old one sees a resurgence and it might even go on sale or like extra big sale, which we'll look at a little bit later. There are a bunch of games that are on sale right now that I think are worth checking out on Steam and probably GOG as well. But okay. Anyway, let me know what you guys think about this one in the comments. Let's take a look at some cake.
Indeed.
So let's see. First, we'll look at the Okami sequel trailer. So here we go. Let's see if this works.
Nice.
I got chills, honestly. I don't get chills often, but I got chills from that. Like that is such a beautiful game. I've always liked Okami. And it was funny because again, this is interesting because these people, these journalists, they'll have us convinced that this is not something that men would want to play. But I personally think these are amazing games. Yeah. All right, you have my attention. Yeah, it was such a fun adventure game. It had a really unique gameplay element with the sumi brush stuff. Oh, it was so cool, man. It was so cool. So I love style. Give me a stylized game over a realistic game any day of the week. Any day of the week.
Yeah, true immersion comes from the experience, not the trappings, Yeah. And this bend towards, it's that whole thing about getting past the surface level of things. You have to actually make things that captivate people and are enthralling. And if you just focus on the idea of like, well, we'll make it more look like the real world. It's like, yeah, but that's the thing that we're all trying.
Like if they did that, if they made Okami realistic, no one would want to play it.
Exactly.
Nobody. It would look awful. Like I like the humans with their funny faces and with the red noses. It was like Legend of Zelda, basically. It was like a Legend of Zelda game for people who didn't own a Nintendo. That was what it kind of was. I don't know if that's a fair comparison, but that's what I think of. But very stylized. I love it. Okay. Now we're going to look at Silent Hill F. So like the Silent Hill franchise has had some ups and downs. I think like the early ones were great. Everybody loves the first three. Some people only like the first two. I thought that The Room was fine, but I don't think it was originally a Silent Hill game. I think it was
No, it
something
was
else,
not.
and they
It
yeah,
was
and then they
repurposed.
just it was repurposed. And then there were a bunch after. I don't even know what those are like. But this is Silent Hill F. Now, is it okay? Silent Hill was going to get a sequel called PT that never. Well, the demo is called PT, which I still own on my PlayStation 4.
Yep.
And I believe that Hideo Kojima was involved with that one.
He
but it
was,
just-
and so was Norman Reedus, which is how the
Yeah.
whole thing with Death Stranding came about.
Yeah, exactly. Let me see what you guys are saying. F Silent Hill. Okami is a game that is also its own sequel. It just keeps going at points when most games would have ended. Marian Rabarik says the Okami sequel trailer looks beautiful. Looks like they've exchanged to stylized hand-painted art style for a more high fidelity one. I'm not sure how to feel about it. I don't know. I don't think that's the gameplay though. So like I think that when the game comes out, we'll see what the actual art style is. If it looks like the old one, but maybe just like, like more like, let's say, higher poly count and like, more of that. Because like cell shaded games back then look very different than they do today. So if you compare like Beautiful Joe, which had that, it was going for that cell shaded look, and then you compare that to say the stuff by Arc System Works, like Guilty Gear, Xrd, like that, like that's how far they've come. So I'm guessing that it's gonna be kind of like that same difference, because like the Okami's on PS2 and the GameCube, and now this is gonna be on like whatever the new console is. So it's probably gonna be like a step up in terms of fidelity, but it hopefully will retain that same kind of painted look, which I think would be like super cool to see. I think that could be really interesting. But anyway, yeah, thank you. Okay, so let's check out Silent Hill F. So like, I don't know who's involved with this. I don't think it's Kojima. That's like to say that, but it does. Well, we'll see. I don't know who was the brains behind Silent Hill 2, because like I wonder that if that's like not what was missing from Silent Hill games following that. Not that I'm shitting on Silent Hill 3, but I'm just wondering. Yeah.
I cannot recall at this point in time.
I can look it up. I bet.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's been decades now.
Yeah, I know. All right, but anyway, this is Silent Hill F. It's a bit longer, so I'm gonna pause like every minute or so just so I don't get hit with copyright. Because it is a longer trailer. So
Peggy 18.
I like that it's in Japanese. I just like what it's in Japanese.
嘘ついてるよね。騙せてると思う？ひなこを。ひなこはね、死んだんだよ。ひなこはお友達といつまでも一緒にいたい。お友達は永遠じゃないのよ。彼らだっていつか必ずあなたを裏切る。あなたが裏切り者と呼ばれたように。ひなこ？あ、ごめん。何？天秤にかける価値があるかどうか、しっかりと判断しなさい。
It's like there's no subtitles either. Sorry, guys. I have no
That's
idea.
right.
I don't know what they're saying, but it's okay. It doesn't matter.
Konami has been going through something of a redemption arc that I do appreciate. Like they got bought out by the pachinko company, and like everything became a pachinko game. And then they completely lost everything. Like their recent efforts have definitely been far better than expected more often than not. I was not necessarily.
They're learning where their bread is buttered.
Right,
so like,
right.
I mean, that's the only thing I could think of, because like the thing is with these large publishers like Konami and Capcom, I can't understand how they could just throw money away. Like they have properties that if they just revisited that they've abandoned, it would just print money. I think Capcom started to learn this with their Resident Evil 2 remake, and now they're going to be giving us, well, not obviously Okami, which I think is going to get a lot of excitement, and even like Monster Hunter Wilds. Is it Wilds, the new one? Despite all of its problems, has been selling like hotcakes. you know, and I mean, I know a lot of people call them crapcom and all that, but what I'm saying is that they are starting to like course correct. They're giving us another. What was the why am I forgetting the name of the game? It's like a samurai game and you fight monsters. Onimusha.
Onimusha? Yeah.
Yeah, Onimusha. You're right. Yeah, so they're giving us that. If they like if they say we're bringing out a new Dino Crisis, people are gonna lose their minds. Like everybody's been begging for a Dino Crisis, and they got to fix Street Fighter. That was like their thing was Street Fighter 2, the whole Street Fighter franchise. They've kind of killed it. I did not like Street Fighter 5 or 6, but maybe they'll course correct on that at some point too. So anyway, yeah, let's listen to more of this. But I agree. I think Konami, again, they have to like get on the right track, and they still have properties they could be doing really good with. I don't know if you guys think of any Konami things that are sort of under appreciated or ignored, like Contra. I don't know. Yeah, obviously Metal Gear. I don't think you can do anything with that anymore. We are getting like a remake of 3.
Yeah, and that actually looks like something that I do have an interest in, because it's like, you know, like when they just the Cowabunga collection that is free right now on PSN. It's got like good quality of life improvements, but otherwise the games are untouched. You know, if you want to go and like give yourself a few extra lives, a few extra continues, you know, like the rewind feature that they put into the game from 1989 is like a godsend. I would not have been able to complete that game without it, especially keeping all 4 turtles alive. So, you know, if you are going to make changes, make them for the betterment and make them optional, you know, rather than just go and reimagine the thing that people want, you know. And so they are doing good in that, and that's what this you know, Snake Eater Delta, you know, it looks like they're very much trying to keep the essence of everything that made that game so fundamentally amazing in the Metal Gear series, but trying to actually make it for modern hardware and things like that. And so I think it'll be something that'll actually be able to be appreciated, at least far more than you know, Metal Gear Survivor.
Oh my God, yeah, please. Well, that's kind of an example of that cash grab thing. They were just using the name to sell some multiplayer thing, and it just didn't work out. But instead, maybe, you know, like give us something with Castlevania. Use the Castlevania license. There's like a show on Netflix that a lot of people are watching. It's like in our consciousness, you know. But anyway, I don't know. Maybe there's some other good suggestions you guys can have. But let's watch another minute of this trailer. I don't know if this is in game. They don't have anything saying it is, so, but it might be. It does look good.
Hinako, いつまでここにいる気なの?
おかしいと思うの。自分で自
I'll be
分がわ
honest.
からない感じ。
I kind of like the lack
自
of
分の気持ちが
subtitles.
自分で理解できない。
Well, that's the thing about Japanese like voice acting is that you don't know what they're saying, but you do get a sense of what emotion is being expressed. I've noticed that when they do it, they're really good about that. You know what's interesting about this too?
Experience.
This is this. It seems that this game is set in Japan, obviously. So Japan has its own Silent Hill. Like, are they like getting out of the Silent Hill being that same town? Like I'm wondering about that, because, you know, I mean, it looks like they're just getting away from that completely, which I don't have a problem with if they have a way of explaining it like Silent Hill, like there are different, like Silent Hill can be anywhere. You know, maybe I don't know. Like, maybe it's not like a location. Maybe it's like something that's like piercing the veil.
State. Yeah, that's always been my understanding of it. It was that Silent Hill in and of itself was a form of purgatory. for lost souls that are kind of like like unable to accept the damage that they've done. Because like historically, I don't think it's been over 20 years, so like like you don't play the protagonist necessarily when you're James in Silent Hill 2. You're just dealing with it from his perspective, and so you're kind of filtering it through his lens. But ultimately, the things that he learns about himself and his situation, there's a reason that he's in Silent Hill, and the idea that you could actually go and just use that as kind of like a metaphysical state, I think is probably more beneficial to the overall concept than saying like it's just like this one single spot in in the world that exists, that's somehow like the border of reality and something beyond. But to have that be something that's a little bit more culturally kind of approached, I think might actually be a good way to deal with it.
Yeah. Gabriel Phelan Lucas in the chat says this looks like the closest thing to Siren/Forbidden Siren, which was itself directed by the director of the first Silent Hill.
Nice.
All right, thank you. Yeah, there's a number of like kind of let's say lesser known horror titles, like lesser even than say Fatal Frame, which is often one that gets overlooked because people usually think of horror games and they just go right to Resident Evil and Silent Hill without taking into account like Alone in the Dark, Fatal Frame, Siren, which you mentioned. There's a number of Japanese ones that are like sleeper hits. All right. So let's play the rest of this. Does that chick get?
私かお前の夢の中ってことはないよな。
ひなこ、もう時間がないのよ。あなたが生かされたということは、ここにいたってまだ。
What the fuck? I gotta go back. Let me see that.
Yeah, that was quite the Cronenberg-esque kind of.
ここにいたってがないのよ。
I just want to see it.
あなたが生かさ。
Oh man, it's like dolls that are almost together. Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna have to. Osaka's gonna love this.
Creepy as shit.
ここにいたってもまだ迷いがあるということなのね。あなたがそれに悩める時間はもう尽きかけている。
あなたは誰なの？さっきからなんで何もわからないふりをしているの？私はね、あんたをすぐに殺すこともできたんだよ。全部だったな。
The pipe! Return of the pipe!
全部私から奪ったな。
Yes.
All right, I'll pause it there. I don't think there's anything else. Well, there's a little bit. There's a little bit. Let's watch a little bit more.
それではお別れを。あなたが幸せをつかんでくれることを願っています。
Yikes.
What the? Whoa,
It's
okay.
got some Junji Ito shit going on. Yes. That's right.
Send me the link to this in our private chat. I'm gonna like send it to Osaka and see if I can get her to translate this.
Yeah, I think you can. I think you can find a subtitled version. I just didn't grab that one. This is from the official Silent Hill YouTube channel, but IGN shared it too. I just didn't want to give them the click.
Yeah, totally.
So, let's see. The first Silent Hill is about a dad going through hell and back to save his adopted daughter, based Harry Mason, one of the top dads in gaming. Yeah, right. You're right up there with the guy from what was that game? David Cage game.
Oh God.
Heavy Rain. Jason. Jason. Anyway, press X to Jason. James Sunderland, top husband.
Oh yeah, number one.
Oh, okay.
James is quite the character.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Well, we got like 15 minutes. Are there any other trailers that you guys want to see? Meanwhile, I'm gonna find what I saw as stuff that's on sale because of new games that are coming out. So let me go ahead and see if I can help you guys with that. This is on Steam, so I'm looking at Steam right now. But there is a spring sale. So Elden Ring, if you haven't gotten into Elden Ring yet, it's on sale, 40% off, $35.99. And you know what's funny? Elden Ring's been out for years now.
Yeah.
And it's actually more expensive than Dragon Age of Veilgar, which is on sale for $30 on Steam or free on PlayStation. So yeah, there's that. Let's see what else. So Ghost of Tsushima is on sale because Ghost of Yokai is or Yotei is coming out soon. So that's on sale for $40.19. Red Dead Redemption 2 is on sale for $15, probably again because GTA 6 is coming, and people who like play Rockstar games typically, you know, they get, it's like, I guess they believe this is their audience. Red Dead 2 is, if you haven't played it yet, $15 is like a really good price for that. Let's see. Final Fantasy, the Rebirth, or the sequel to the remake of Final Fantasy, is on sale for $48.99. It's 30% off. So that's a pretty good sale. You can get the Silent Hill 2 remake for $48.99. It's on sale for 30% off. There's a number of these that are like on sale because, you know, there's like a sequel coming. So I'm trying to find a couple of the other ones here. So, oh yeah, Metaphor Di Fantasio, not a great sale, it's like 25% off, but I hear that's a really good game if you like games like Persona, the Persona series, and it's $52.49. Let's see, Pal World is on sale for $22. What else? I'll go into my YouTube history and see, because I watched this video and this guy had a bunch of stuff. So let me see if I can find it. Let's see. Apparently Warner Brothers is killing themselves. I was gonna make that a story and I just kind of forgot about it. So
That's all right. I mean, that's one of those things. It's a slow, you know, it's a slow death march, so we can always get to it soon enough. But yeah, they are.
When it actually happens, maybe. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. All right, so I found the video I was thinking about. So yeah, I'm just gonna jump. Oh yeah, Solasta 1. So I already talked about Solasta. And that one is on sale right now. It's something like $20 or something. So let me just go into the store here and see. So if you want to play some hardcore D&D type turn-based RPG, and let's say you can't afford something like Baldur's Gate 3, I actually got more hooked on Solasta than Baldur's Gate, and it's on sale for, but get this, $8.99. $8.99. And the DLC, there's lots of DLC. There's a number of DLC adventures that, and there's thousands of hours
Fan
of
community made stuff
and created stuff, which is as good as the main story. So you can get Solasta right now for $9. The Outer Worlds. So there's an Outer Worlds 2 coming out, and so because of that, the Outer Worlds is on sale. I don't know if you guys like that
Outer
game.
Worlds is it's all right. I mean, it's certainly better than what Fallout 4 was to a point, but there's
wasn't it made by the same people that made it or something?
Obsidian, yeah. But you could start to see like it was because it came out right when COVID Hell World was starting up. It scratches an itch well enough in comparison to some of the other stuff, but there's definitely some covert wokeness going on within it, and it's not even all that covert. They very much make you just kind of like, you know, the guy who's kind of left out of the situation. You're kind of like you're the captain of the ship, but you're also kind of like the fifth wheel in most situations. It's like, you know, like they make it very well known that the women want nothing to do with you in the game, effectively. Yeah.
Yeah, Outer Worlds on sale for half off, so it's $15 if that is something you would be interested in. Let's see what else. Avernum. So Avernum 1, 2, and 3. What is that? Avernum. The entire Avernum, like I guess they sold like all 3 of them. That's a
Mhm.
series of yes. The trilogy bundle is on sale for $13.57. It is an RPG, kind of a indie RPG type of deal.
Nice.
Yeah, so we can look at like this as an example what it looks like. You can see it's super old school, and you can get it for pretty cheap right now. So if you like that kind of thing, you know,
Mhm.
Warhammer 40,000 Rogue Trader. So that one's on sale. I heard really good things about Rogue Trader. So I was interested in like a turn-based RPG, and I kind of like I'm getting more into the Warhammer world. And so
Mhm.
Warhammer 40K Rogue Trader's on sale for $27.49 right now. And again, it's supposed to be pretty solid, as you can see, and it's in the 40K universe, which is super dope, right? So you
Nice.
might like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, one of my favorites, Space Marine 2, is
Yep.
on
Which they
sale.
announced Space
Yep.
Marine 3 this week as well.
Yes, they announced Space Marine 3 this week, which means Space Marine 2 goes on sale for $38.99 for the standard edition, which is, you know what, I still think this game has, like, I haven't even scratched the surface on how much there is to do in this game still. Like, I haven't done any of the multiplayer, which I don't think is really the strong suit. I love the co-op. I just did a stream this week where I played the co-op campaign with it, and I think that it's a very, very cool and fun to play. Even though you play the missions over and over, it doesn't really feel repetitive because they have this way, kind of like, you know, where they will bring you hordes that will come charging in at random times, and so like it kind of keeps things interesting. Because speaking of games that are getting ready for sequels, because Doom, the Dark Ages is coming out. The Doom 2016. This is, I think, is this Doom 2016?
$2?
Doom 2016 is $2. Yes.
Holy shit.
You can get it for $2, and it includes all the DLC packs, Unto Evil, Hell Followed, and Bloodfall. Doom 2016 is good, man. That's a solid ass game. Like I liked it. I liked it quite a bit. And
I
Doom
think
Eternal,
I might just get that on my Steam Deck.
yeah, Doom Eternal is also on sale. So that one is also on sale. Doom Eternal is $10. Dude, that is worth it. Doom Eternal is a blast. Okay. So
yeah, I was doing I was reading chats and whatnot for Will before he started playing Suikoden this past week, which is another Konami game that's been released, part of their resurgence that has come out recently. But yeah, this is definitely ultra fun. Twitch, Doom Eternal is great.
Yeah. And lastly, I think as far as like sales go, Octopath Traveler, is it 1 or 2? Let me see. 2. It's actually 2. Octopath Traveler 2 is on sale. Let me see if I can find it. Should be like related. And these are, I mean, if you like kind of like Suikoden and these sort of pixel-based games, it's actually that one's on sale as well. So let me put in Octopath Traveler 2.
We do also have a fan
super
request,
chat.
chat request from Dean Domino. He's saying Mad Metal trailer. So
so Octopath Traveler 2 is on sale for $30, and you can download a demo if you want to see if you would like get into this kind of thing. But it looks pretty cool, and it's sort of like a nice merging of like pixel graphics as well as 3D graphics. It's always cool when you see that. So okay, let's take a look at these trailers that this person asked me to put up. So Dean Domino says, check out the Mad Metal trailer. So Mad Metal. I feel like that I know that one. Why do I think I saw this one already? Mad Metal trailer. Seems like when I put in Mad Metal alone, I get a bunch of music. So, Is it called Mad Metal? I just see Angry Metal, Mad Max, Mystic Euphoria Project. Let me try putting. Maybe I can put it in here and see it. Mad Metal.
Yeah.
Yeah, there
there
it
it
is.
is.
Okay.
There we go.
So we can just play it here. So, oh yeah, this is like a. Okay, let's take a look. Demo for this? No, not yet. You can join the playtest.
Looking good though.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So that's Mad Metal. So like it you know, I'm getting obviously Twisted Metal, but also there was a Demolition Derby game that was pretty cool on the PS1 back in the day. There were other car combat games. I remember Rogue Trip. Anybody remember Rogue Trip? And Vigilante 8, as well as Vigilante Second Offense. Those were I love those games. I had a lot of fun with that. Thank you for the suggestion.
Yeah, looks really good.
Let's see. Let me see here. 29 Steam gays today. Is there time for you to check out Gloomwood? Let me see. I'll see if I can look at it. I gotta quit soon though because I got another show in a little while. Oh, there's like so good, like so many good like indie things coming out too, to be honest. Okay, so let's like put this on the screen and let's take a look at this. Trapped in a dark Victorian city consumed by an ancient curse, you must plan your survival and daring escape using nothing but stealth, an arsenal of eccentric weapons, and your wit in this haunting adventure inspired by the immersive Sims and survival horror greats of the late 90s and early 2000s.
Doctor. I had hoped for us to meet at my estate. No matter. I can guarantee your safe arrival. A promise few others here can make. The townsfolk are not fond of outsiders. Don't delay.
Nice. Looks pretty sweet.
Yeah, okay. I think it looks good. It reminds me of another game I just saw a trailer for, but I don't have time to look at right now. That was also Victorian horror, kind of Lovecraft actually. It's more Lovecraft horror than anything else. But let me just give you the title, and then I'm going to end the show so you guys can look it up yourself. Let me see. So real quick here. Oh yeah, it's called Stygian Outer Gods. Stygian Outer Gods. Check that one out. It looks pretty good, and I think there might be a demo available for that one. But look, I got to end the show here, guys. Thank you for coming on. John, where are you going to be tomorrow, today?
Today, if Toasty's up for it, we might do a chill, cozy kind of stream. But other than that, I can't say for certain if we do that one. It'll be here in a few hours later in the afternoon, probably before Saturday Night Hypnosis. But on Sunday, of course, we do what we're affectionately calling Lifetime Friends. We'll be doing WTF Sunday edition at 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific. as we do every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. And then we will definitely be doing a Toasty stream tomorrow. Is the Saturday, Sunday cosplay special that we do weekly now. And I believe we will be going live at 6 p.m. Eastern, so 3 p.m. Pacific. And then I'll probably finish up the night hanging out over on Stupenzo's channel doing like Tales of the Dork Side. Other than that, you can always see me throughout the week on Reality Based. Of course, we do those shows on Thursdays and Fridays, and every once in a while we do a Monday show for Rising Stars, which we got one coming up soon, I think at the end of the month. And then, yeah, that's pretty much me throughout the week. Will of the Fans, Reality Based, and Toasty's channel are where I am commonly found doing different kinds of co-hosting duties. And then, of course, here every Saturday with you. But other than that, I'll just finish by saying safe travels ahead. Have a wonderful weekend going forward. Be awesome as always. Today was a great show. I think we had a nice theme of, So, yeah, incorporated a whole bunch of, superheroes into it, which was not necessarily intended. I did steal the Crisis that I put on the thumbnail from the Infinite Crisis. So even though we were talking about Marvel stuff, it was still comic related. So
yeah. All right. Well, yeah, thank you. And I will be back here in just under an hour. I'm going to be hanging out with the developers over at Chudsoft. Yes, that's a real thing.
Nice.
They made a game called Rome in a Day. And if you come on the stream, you have a chance to win a copy of Rome in a Day. It's kind of an RTS, a game that's a throwback to older games like Warcraft and StarCraft. Manage your resources. How long can you last as a Germanic tribe before the Romans come and colonize you, essentially? Bring you enrichment, culture, and diversity. Join me in just under an hour here on this channel, and I hope we'll see you guys there. With all that said, I'm going to wrap it up here. If you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, leave us a comment, let us know what you guys think about what we discussed on the show today, and please, please, please share this video because sharing is caring. Thank you guys so much for coming on today's episode of The Week in Culture, and we will talk to you guys in the next video in just under an hour.
With the glass ceiling broken, all the oppressed groups shall prosper, especially the most oppressed group of all, gamers.
I want people in the industry to be a little bit louder about people being mean to other people, and maybe say it's not a good thing.
Yeah.
Maybe say we don't want you around if you're going to be a cunt.
Yeah.
And hateful. And that the games industry is diverse naturally. Not because anyone's making them be diverse. Because the world is diverse, you stupid motherfucker. And if you have a problem with that, come fight me. Physically. Bitch.
Has anyone taken you up on that yet?
No, because they're all pussies.
Yep.
Down here, salt is a way of life.
Obviously, the environment down here is all salt. The ceiling's salt, the floor is salt, the walls are salt, and to an extent, the air is salt. And you breathe that in, and you can constantly taste the salt.